All right, I want to talk about one other pattern that I've observed recently, which is progressives and specifically social justice theory adherents on social media and the ways that they're expressing themselves. Which, if you've been paying attention or followed me on social media enough and have been interested in anything that I've written, you've probably noticed that I have a particular something about there's a certain thing about moral superiority and certainty when there's no reason to be certain, and a condescension kind of dynamic that really, I don't know, it just gets me. And anyways, I think that's particularly rampant, I'll say, or common in the social justice theory adherents, people who believe in that theory. And it's very common. I think universities basically very much encourage it in the way that their instruction is at this point in time. I just think it's very common on college campuses. But anyways, people who believe in social justice theory. So I've noticed on social media, the way that they're talking to people is with complete moral superiority, condescension, and certainty that everything that they're saying is true. There's no reason to debate it. If you'd like, they can educate you on it and tell you why you're wrong and what you need to do differently, what you need to believe in. And, from there, then you can be considered to support black people and people of color at the appropriate level, and therefore no longer be yelled at. And I just want to say, for people that are experiencing that, it's obviously not true. There's no reason that they should be that certain about their theory. There's plenty of things to be talked about, and depending on which one you're talking about, or which topic specifically, there's plenty of holes and things to be explored in their theories that they're putting out there, or their beliefs. Honestly, it reminds me of I told some people in person this. I don't know if I've posted it on social media. I don't think so. But it reminds me, one group of people that really used to get me was, I don't know exactly what group of Christianity it would be, like evangelicals maybe. I don't know. But anyway, just like religious people who would kind of talk down to you and assume that their moral code, the spiritual path that they choose to walk, is superior to yours, and they would gladly tell you how you should change your life so that you could, get into heaven and do and be a good person, basically not be a bad person. It just drove me up a wall, and it still does. But honestly, I've really not seen that, and I feel like I've had really good interactions and conversations with people who are quite religious now, and I feel like there's a lot more respect there. Most people, I mean, of course, you can still find them, but anyways, that is, I think, a great parallel for what I see in my experience of people who are extremely passionate about social justice theory. And I've seen it on the internet now, seen it in social media, and I personally find it tiresome. I don't think in the least that these people support black people or people of color any more than I do. Call me petty, but I came to the conclusion that the war on drugs probably disproportionately affected black people, and that the legal system disproportionately affected and negatively affected black people. Law enforcement, I think, too, in certain ways, although I think it's depending on the specifics, there's ins and outs of it. But I've been in support of those things for around a decade now. you might think that there's more that I should do or that I should be for and whatnot. But point being, I've looked at these things. I think that and I'm wide open to listening to people about what things should be different, and I think those are all good conversations to have. What I am rejecting, though, is that these people are morally superior in any way, shape, or form. What I see is that they believe that because they have accepted social justice theory, and that, and let me step back on that for just a second. I guess I'm assuming that most people who are listening to this know what social justice theory is and what. And I mean, there are different ways that people use it, but the way that I'm talking about specifically, and in the way that, in what I know that most of these people believe to be true, and they will tell you that is that groups of people or people should be primarily seen as groups, and that because that's how we should look to affect change on a societal level by making changes to help groups out. And so that's why I say that they primarily see them as groups. And then any disparities that arise that we should try to fix by use of the government, by use of the powers that be, that we should try to equalize these things. And superficially, that seems like a very good idea, because you're helping what are marginalized groups to what you believe to have a more fair shake at things and have better equality you want to have equality of outcomes, because that's what you believe would happen if there wasn't bias. And as in my last video, I pointed out that there's definitely, I think that's just completely not true. I'm personally convinced that about the nature of disparities is not that it is the rule rather than the exception, that you would expect disparities when people are free, and that there's going to be disparities among people and groups and their outcomes. And so equality of outcomes is what the social justice theory, that is the main core concept that I do not believe in, and that I think that these people want. That is the heart of what they're trying to, or what they believe in, or what they're trying to push along with this movement. And so, I reject the idea that that they have any moral superiority because of that. And for more reasons than one of them being that their policies could very well hurt the people that they most want to help. That is certainly entirely possible. But also that they're pushing. So when I see these people posting these things and really pushing and shaming white people and this and that in the United States has been a racist hellhole for however long, and all these things, that it's a great marketing scheme, because it's paired. There's definitely a left-leaning political ideology behind this, and then you pair it with something like Black Lives Matter, which I'm not afraid to say I do believe that, but I'm not for the organization because of a number of reasons that I, again, don't want to get into in the scope of this video. But you have a left-wing ideology, and I would say a pretty far left. I would even say somewhat radical, because I think equality, trying to make a government or an institution powerful enough to make outcomes equal, is a pretty radical idea in my opinion. But anyways, it's definitely a left-wing ideology being pushed with why you should care about black people and not want them to get killed, that being pushed together is the same thing. And then you get people who are resistant to, excuse me, people who are resisting that. And some of them, I think, maybe even don't know why. Some of them, to be fair to the more left wing side of these things, just aren't listening and are being indignant, which they shouldn't be. But some of them are also, I think, just sensing that there's more going on here than just, we care about black people. And then when they get this resistance, they're saying how terrible of you. How can you possibly not say Black Lives Matter and this and that? And so it's quite the tangled web of things. But I'm really interested to see some different perspectives on what different people think about this tangle of the combination of the sentiment that you care about black people and the injustices that they experience, and whether or not you support all of the rest of the ball of left wing ideology that comes along with the movement. And again, I'm not trying to be political or trying to take a political side here. I'm trying to really be objective. Of course, I have my perspective on it, but just to, I guess, give some credence to that too, I will say that there are plenty of people who are just being indignant and need to listen and engage with other people's ideas and listen to other black voices other than the ones that they already wanted to agree with in the first place, or listening to the ones that conveniently already support the position that they want to believe about the world, or already support their worldview. And also that, so, there is that for sure on the more right side of things. And I think there's a lot of that also is just that people more on the right side of things, on the right wing of the culture in the United States, I would say, mostly believe that the United States is an imperfect meritocracy, and that if you work hard, you can, and you will find opportunities, and you can live a good life. And so I think that's part of what they're protecting. But to the same token, there's people on the left that are doing the same exact thing, and who wouldn't listen to Thomas Sowell or Walter Williams or Lil Wayne or God, who is the other couple of guys? Denzel Washington, other people who've said various versions of that they believe that it's mostly a meritocracy, and that racism was not a defining feature or something that they felt like held them back from achieving their goals. And like I said, I'm trying to listen to both sides. I'm listening to the people who believe that racism colors their every it defines that their every minute of every day, and their everything has some element of racism behind it, and the United States has roots in racism. I'm listening to those voices and those ideas and engaging with them, and I'm also listening to the ones on the right side. But I think both sides are guilty of it. And pertaining to this video, the people who are passionately shaming other white people about not being anti-racist enough, I guess, they're equally guilty of not listening to any of the black voices who are saying something that they don't want to hear. Their condescension and moral superiority is definitely growing tiresome, and then the resistance they see to that, they equate to people are just being racist or ignorant. And honestly, it's just a pretty, I guess, crazy perspective, and I wanted to, I guess, make a comment on it because it's kind of, I think it's just over the top. There's other thing I wanted to say on it too, but and that was just, I mean, I can't imagine a worse strategy for trying to persuade people to be on your side. We need to talk more, and we need to feel like we can talk to each other more without just being berated because you have the wrong opinion. We need to engage each other with ideas, not be worried about being fired for saying the wrong thing. And, some of the, again, I think I talked about this in a different video, but some people are saying, well, that, if you're scared, that's a good thing because this is how black people feel, all the time. There might be some kind of element of truth in that, but as far as being scared to talk, that is not a good thing. We need to be able to talk to each other about our disagreements and about the things that are going on right now. And I honestly, I just think that there's a lot of I just think that there's toxicity coming from that that ideology and the people who push that ideology, and they're making it harder for some people to talk about this, and a big part of that is pushing their ideology along with it, and forming it or framing it as the sentiment of caring about black people. So I'm looking forward to talking more on these topics, but I just wanted to do a video on that, and hopefully it gets to some of the people who need to hear that, because I think it is hurting our ability to communicate with each other, and we need to have less of the shaming and more of just real conversation and treating each other like adults and like people who have brains in their heads, and that, like, most of us actually do care, because we do. So let me know what you think about that. I'd honestly like to hear what people are feeling and thinking about the climate, and I guess that in particular. I assume that there's probably people who also find it as tiresome as I am. So thanks for watching.